All right. Okay, so Habitat Greater Boston we're going to kind of do an overview of who we are as an organization first. So we are an independent affiliate of Habitat for Humanity International. So we are part of an international organization. There are affiliates in every single state in the US. There's actually 16 Habitat affiliates within the state of Massachusetts alone. And then Habitat is present in around 70 countries in the world. So we've been operating for almost 50 years. Each affiliate operates a little differently, but we all serve the same mission and we all have the same vision, which is a world in which everyone has a decent place to live. So even though we're a little different, our goal is to serve people and offer affordable homeownership opportunities to people in our area. So a little fun fact, some common misconception is that President Jimmy Carter is the person who founded Habitat for Humanity. This is actually not true. Habitat was founded by a man named Millard Fuller in 1976. So President Jimmy Carter, he has been a huge supporter of Habitat, but he's actually not the founder. Another common misconception is that Habitat homes are given away. This is not true. They are not given away for free. Habitat homeowners are paying an affordable mortgage, and we will get into the details of that in a little bit. So as we said, Habitat is present around the world. Here's just a few pictures of different Habitat homes in different countries. And although the architecture and the home might look different, we're all building safe, decent, and low-cost homes for the Habitat homeowners. And so who is Habitat for Humanity Greater Boston? So we have been operating for just over 35 years. We've served around 125 families, and we wear a lot of hats. So we are not only the builder and contractor of the home, we are also the lender. So we are the bank, we're the ones who hold the mortgages, as well as we are a nonprofit service. We'll get kind of into the different roles throughout the presentation, but that is who we are. And this is our service area. So each affiliate has a specific service area. So this is ours. Ours is Greater Boston. The red dots you see on the map represent projects that we have built and completed or future projects that we have coming up. And I'd like to point out that Dorchester is actually the area that we are most familiar with and have built the most homes in. So we're really, really excited to be returning to Dorchester for these Norfolk Street homes. Dorchester is actually where we completed our first project too. We will get into the qualification guidelines in a little bit, but while the map is in front of us, I do just want to point out that one of the qualification guidelines for the homeownership program is that the household must have lived or worked within our service area for at least a year before applying. So why homeownership? Homeownership, there's a lot of benefits to it. 3 specific benefits are stability. As a homeowner, you don't have to worry about increasing rent or being kicked out of your apartment at any time. You are the owner of the home, and it is your responsibility. A home builds community. We'll kind of get into this a little bit more throughout the presentation. And a home builds generational wealth. It is an investment. You are building equity as a homeowner, and you're building generational wealth for your future generations. So now we're going to dive into the homeownership program itself. So as I mentioned, Habitat is the lender. we are the bank. So we offer affordable 0% interest mortgages. It's a 30-year term. There is no down payment on these mortgages, and they're based strictly on the homeowner's income. Again, we'll get into those details a little later. And Habitat homeowners are purchasing, like I said, safe, decent, affordable homes that they actually helped build. One thing that's important to note is that our program is a long-term commitment. This is not an immediate resolution to your current housing situation. Typically, the time between a family being selected into the program and closing on the home can take about 2 to 2.5 years. So that is important to know. And then there are 3 main criteria we use to assess if someone is eligible for the Habitat Homeownership Program. Those 3 criteria are need for safe, decent, and affordable housing, ability to pay an affordable mortgage, and then willingness to partner with Habitat. Habitat forms partnerships with all of the families that are selected into the program, and we're there as a support and resource for the families from the moment they are selected into the program throughout the whole life of their mortgage. We'll get into the details of these 3 over the next few slides, actually.
Hi, so yeah, I'm just going to provide a little bit more detail on our homeownership program qualifications. So the first qualification of need is very broad, and it looks really different in all of the different people who apply to our program. So a couple examples are housing that's overcrowded. So that looks like more than 2 people sharing a bedroom, children of different genders sharing a bedroom, adults and children sharing a bedroom, or anybody sleeping in any space of the house that's not a bedroom. Housing, people can have a need if their housing is unsafe. So if there are issues with heating and cooling, if there's flooding or mold or pests, or just a landlord who is not super attentive to the building. And then also, if people are cost burdened, that's another way to demonstrate need. So if applicants are paying over 30% of their gross monthly income towards rent, that means that they are overpaying for their rent to us. And then as a more broad demonstration of need, families who are just unable to qualify for conventional financing for a mortgage are also eligible for our program in terms of the need qualification, because we think that everybody deserves to be able to live and own a home. Next, please.
We'll try that. Okay, sorry, Chloe.
No problem. Thank you. And then our next qualification is the ability to pay. So as Shannon mentioned earlier, we aren't giving houses away. We're actually selling the homes and giving people, selling an affordable mortgage. So in order to assess people's ability to pay, we have to make sure that they have lived and worked within the service area for the past year, and are willing to continue living in the service area. This just helps us know that people will be around and able to make their regular monthly payments. And then we also have income guidelines for our program. So between 40 and 80% of the area median income qualifies for our program. The specific numbers are dependent on family size, and we will get into that a little bit more in the next slide. But these numbers come from the Department of Housing and Urban Development, and we just use this to make sure that families who are applying to our program have enough income to be able to make the payments, but also are unable to, again, get conventional mortgage financing. And then lastly, we run a credit check to make sure that applicants have good credit. So for us, there's no number that we use. There's no like minimum credit score that people need to have, but we do look at the credit report to make sure that people don't have any recent charge-offs, collections, or bankruptcies. And then we also make sure that people's debt to income ratio is below 43%. So again, we get those numbers from running a credit report. And then also people have to just demonstrate that they have legal residency and have to be okay with us doing a criminal background and sex offender registry check. Again, there's no hard cutoffs. It's not like if a record is found, then people are automatically disqualified. However, we will run those reports, and if there are any results, we will discuss it as an organization and department and make sure that those wouldn't interfere with the homeowner's ability to be a successful homeowner and live successfully with their neighbors as well. Next slide, please. So these are the more specific income guideline numbers. So these change every year, and these actually just came out less than a week ago on Monday. So as you can see, the numbers are dependent on the family size. So yeah, I'll give you like a minute to look over these numbers. And then our last broad qualification is a willingness to partner. So Shannon alluded to this a little bit earlier, but homeowners in our program actually spend time constructing their future homes. So Habitat homeowners have to complete between 250 and 300 hours of sweat equity. And then also, they also have to participate in 10 to 12 first-time home buying classes that we facilitate as an organization. So a little bit more about sweat equity. The breakdown looks like 250 hours are required for households that are headed by a single parent, and then households that are headed by two parents have to complete 300 hours of sweat equity. So again, this is time that people spend actually building their future homes. Most of our we call them homesteaders, people who have been accepted into the program but have not yet closed on their homes. Most homesteaders prefer to do sweat equity on the site of their future home, but we also allow people to complete sweat equity on other build sites if their home site is not open or if for some reason it's not convenient for them. And then we also allow people to complete sweat equity at our restore, which I'll get a little bit more into in a second. But to complete sweat equity, anybody in the household who's over the age of 18 and will be living in the home is able to contribute to those 250 to 300 hours. Unfortunately, people outside of the family who won't be living in the home, they are still able to volunteer on the site, but the hours that they put in will not count towards the sweat equity total. So yeah, it's just hours that are put in by the future homeowners, and however they want to break down those hours between the household members over 18 is totally up to the family. And then just a little bit more about our restore. So our restore is sort of another branch of our organization. It's a store that's completely open to the public, and they sell donated items, which are gently used or sometimes new. They're at a discounted price, so they're pretty affordable. And then all of the money that's raised at the restore actually goes back into our programs and helps us, provide affordable homeownership opportunities. So we allow our homesteaders to complete up to a third of the required 250 to 300 hours of sweat equity at the restore. And then just at the bottom of the slide is a quick address. It's located in West Roxbury. And then the other part of the willingness to partner are the homeownership classes. So the homesteaders are required to complete between 10 to 12 first-time home buying classes. These are taught by a combination of volunteers and Habitat staff, and they cover topics such as estate planning, financial management and lending, conflict negotiation and living in a condo association, and home maintenance. Those are just a few examples. So courses like the home maintenance classes are actually taught by Habitat construction staff. So they're able to provide a lot of tailored information that is very relevant to the actual home And then classes like our lending class are taught by different community partners that we have. And then we do require that everybody in our program complete our first-time home buying classes. So unfortunately, if you've already completed some classes, I mean, it's a great way to build your knowledge and it's always good to keep learning, but people will still be required to participate in Habitat for Humanity Greater Boston's homeownership classes. And then just a couple other eligibility requirements that sort of fall outside of the three broader categories. For our program, you have to be a first-time home buyer, which means that you haven't, for us, means that you haven't owned a home within the past 3 years. And we also have a new asset limit. So to participate in our program, people have to have under $75,000 in financial assets. So that basically means money in bank accounts or other financial accounts. Again, that's one of our newer eligibility requirements that we'll be implementing in this next round of applications.
I'm going to be talking about the required documents that we're going to need from you as you apply for our program. And we do have two separate steps to our program. The first one being the pre-application and the second one being the full application, which I will go into. And keep in mind that with every single document that we are going to require from you, these documents are going to touch the ability to pay requirements. So we're going to be asking for documents that will allow us to see how long you've worked, to make sure that you meet the 1-year requirement. We're going to take a look at your assets, things like that, to make sure that your family qualifies under the income guideline, that you have good credit, and all that information. So keep that in mind, even though it may seem like we're asking for a lot of documents. After a while, it's all going to be worth it, and it all goes towards your qualification. So for the pre-application, we are only going to require 3 documents from you. Well, 2 documents, but there's an exception if you are a self-employed or a person who has their own business. We're going to require the applicant's and the co-applicant's most recent federal and state tax return. And we're also going to require copies of your 5 most recent pay stubs for the applicant and for the co-applicant. If you're not going to have a co-applicant on your application, then only the applicant part would apply to you. And then for self-employed individuals, we're going to require a year-to-date expenses and revenue sheet or your profit and loss statement. For the full application, which is where we require more documents from you, we're going to require a copy of any public assistance documentation that members of the family receive. If you receive child support, we're going to need records from the Department of Revenue showing child support transactions for the past 3 months, or any canceled checks and notarized letter from the person who pays the child support to show that the payment went through and was approved. We're also going to need your last 3 consecutive months of statements of all of your assets. And it has to have your financial institution's letterhead attached to it, just to make sure that it's official. If we see that you have any income that is over $500, or not even income, if we see that you have a payment, a recurring payment that is over $500 and it doesn't come from an employer, then we are going to require or need an explanation for that amount of money that's coming in. And one thing is different about the full application is that for this one, we are going to be asking for your federal and state tax returns, as well as your W-2s for the past 3 years of every single member of the family that is 18 years old or older. And this is different from the pre-application, because the pre-application, we just required the applicants and the co-applicants information. But for the full applications, since it's the full application, we're going to need more information. So we need all of your federal and state tax returns and W-2s for the past 3 years. as for everyone in the family 18 years or older who has worked. If you have someone who's 18 years or older but hasn't worked, then they don't have any pay stubs or tax returns to turn in, so they don't have to turn in anything. For self-employed individuals, you are going to submit your Schedule C form. And we're also going to need 5 consecutive pay stubs from any other members in the household who is earning income and is over 18 years old. As far as the identification, to prove that you are either a legal resident or a US citizen, I'm just going to read the list. I'm just going to read everything that's on the list to make sure that we all hear what qualifies as appropriate documents. And you will also have this list available once it is shown that you qualify for the program. You're going to have this information available to you when you decide to apply, when you receive the full application. So the identification would be a copy of your driver's license, your US passport, a certificate of your US citizenship, certificate of naturalization, an unexpired foreign passport with a stamp, a Form I-94 identifying that you're either a refugee, asylum granted. We're going to need a permanent resident card with your photograph on it, or I should say an alien registration receipt card with your photograph. So anything that will just show that you have legal residency or are a US citizen. So our application process, as I mentioned at the beginning, has 2 parts to it. The first part is going to be the pre-application, which is going to be made available online on our website. And you can go online to access this and fill it out. You also have the opportunity to print out the pre-application, fill it out, and then send it back to us. We have the ability of mailing you the pre-application if you're unable to access it online. And I think you would just need to reach out to us if that was the case for you. But once you fill out the application, you including all of the required documents that I mentioned, the applicant and co-applicants, federal and state tax returns, as well as your pay stubs, you're going to either drop it in our Dropbox online, mail it back to us, or drop it off at our office at designated times. And it's at designated times, that way we know that you hand delivered it over to the appropriate person and we received it. Once we receive your pre-application, the office staff is going to begin reviewing your pre-application to determine whether your income qualifies, how your credit looks, and then also examine the whole pre-application as a whole to make sure that everything was completed correctly and completed fully. If you meet the basic requirements of the pre-application, we're then going to send you a full application to complete, and we're going to have an additional list of documents that we're going to need from you, which are all of the 3 years federal tax returns, all of those documents that we're going to need from you later on. But that's only going to happen. You're only going to receive a full application if we see that you have fully completed your pre-application and that your income qualifies you for the program. If you were to not meet the basic qualifications in our pre-application, then you will receive a letter from us explaining why you didn't qualify. And we'll make sure to explain clearly the reasoning. That way it's easy to understand. For those who do qualify from the pre-application, after you receive your pre-application, you'll fill it out, of course, and then send it back to us. Once we receive it, we're going to verify your eligibility and schedule an interview and a home visit with volunteers from our home selection committee, who will then move on to determine which families will be included in our lottery system based on need, willingness to partner, and ability to pay, our 3 core requirements. If it happens to be that you do not, something in your application makes it that you don't move forward, or that you don't qualify from the information in your full application, then you will also be receiving a letter from us explaining why you didn't qualify. So we'll make sure to keep you updated, and we'll be as transparent as possible throughout the whole process to make sure that you know why things are happening the way that they are. But for those who move forward, you'll get the home visits, the interviews, as well as the ability of entering our lottery system after the home selection committee discuss your application. And then we will have a final selection of individuals, of families, I should say, by lottery, and the families that will be included in the lottery will be notified of the results by mail. So a few application tips that we think are pretty important to keep in mind, and if you decide that this is something that you want to do. The first thing is you want to make sure that you complete the entire application, and that you make sure that, and you should make sure that you have all of the required documents included. So this applies for the pre-application as well as the full application. And it seems very simple, but you know, sometimes the devil is in the details, and sometimes we just forget things. So make sure you complete your entire application, and that you include all of the required documents that we're asking from you in each step. You want to make sure that you read the entire application before signing at the end. This just makes sure that you know the information that we need from you, you know what is included in the program, and that you are aware of everything that you need to know. So make sure you read the entire application before signing, and make sure you do sign, because we need that. We need to see that you understood what we are asking for. Remember to tell us why you need a habitat home, and this will be a part of your pre-application as well as your application, I believe. So this does not need to be an essay, but it does need to be genuine, and just you letting us know why exactly you're looking for a home. Can be very simple, but don't forget to tell us why you need a habitat home. And then, of course, if you have a child, if you have children or a child that is 18 years or older, don't forget to provide their tax returns, W-2s, and pay stubs. And this applies even if they're not going to be a co-applicant. Once you get to the full application stage, you are going to need to give those financial documents for everyone who is over the age of 18 and works in the household. If you are selected into our program, after having gone through the application, the full application, the interviews, the home visits, the lottery, once you're selected, you will participate in an orientation meeting, and you will complete the sweat equity hours that was mentioned by Chloe, 250 or 300 hours, depending on your family size, or depending on your family makeup, I should say. We are going to, so Habitat Greater Boston is going to complete a second financial review near the completion of your home. And this second financial review is what we're going to use to calculate, to determine your mortgage payments, your monthly mortgage payments. And we do a second financial review because we understand that things change. And so we want to make sure that we're using your most updated documents and information when it comes time to calculating how much you're going to be paying each month. We want to make sure that it's whatever you pay, it is below 30% of your current monthly income. And then you're going to pay closing costs. And once you pay the closing costs, you purchase your home, you move in, and then we have a home dedication. And I believe the next slide has more information on the closing cost. There you go. So closing costs are approximately $5,000 to $7,000. So closing costs are not down payment, of course, but closing costs include things such as real estate tax escrow, title insurance, government recording fees, all of these important things that will basically show that you are the homeowner, that this home belongs to you. And so you're going to need to have this amount ready by your closing date. And then this is just to keep you informed on what exactly is included in closing costs once that time comes. And it looks like we do have a few questions in the chat. And Shannon, you can decide if you want to answer it now or later.
Yeah, I'm trying to do my best to answer as we go, but we will read through the questions at the end too. Thank you, Abby.
All right, so I am just going to talk to you a little bit more about our financing model and what an affordable mortgage means to Habitat for Humanity Greater Boston. So if you are selected for one of our homes, Habitat provides an affordable mortgage. So this is a 0% interest, 30-year mortgage with no monetary down payment. So in the Habitat model, the sweat equity hours sort of act as the down payment. So again, yep, there's no financial down payment. It's sort of impossible for us to set a selling price before the house has been completed and before we run that second check of applicants and program participants' financials, since the house is based on our applicant's income. So the way this works is the house payments, we ensure that no household is paying over 30% of their income towards housing costs. And housing costs include mortgage payments, real estate tax payments, homeowners insurance, and condo fees. This build on Norfolk Street will become a condo, so these homeowners will be paying monthly condo fees. So all of these costs together will not exceed 30% of households' total gross monthly income. And then a little example to just make it a little clearer. So say that when we run our second financial check of all the documents and the credit checks, we determine that the household income, which is made up of a family of 4, makes a gross annual income of $60,000 a year. So if you take that and divide it by 12 for 12 months, we'll see that the monthly income is $5,000. So that means to Habitat that family has 30% of that, which is $1,500 to pay towards housing costs, which again includes mortgage payments, homeowners insurance, real estate taxes, and condo fees. So a lot of those costs, including the homeowners insurance, the real estate taxes, and the condo fees, which go towards a bunch of different things that we'll get into a little later, are sort of out of Habitat's control. So the way that we account for these is we use past information and different resources to estimate those costs. And then whatever amount is left over of that $1,500 is what we believe the family will have to pay towards the mortgage payments. So as the lender, we have a lot of flexibility when it comes to the size of the mortgage payments. And we use that to ensure that the mortgage is affordable for all of our families and individuals.
All right, so I'm just going to cover some important information about the home specifically, and then I'll dive into a little bit of information about the Norfolk Street homes. So important things to know about requirements and guidelines of being a Habitat homeowner. So all Habitat homes must be owner occupied. Renting is not acceptable. So if you are selected into the program and you purchase a home from Habitat, that must be your primary place of residence. For a Habitat home, again, it has to be your primary place of residence. So you cannot be operating a business outside of it. For example, a daycare. It has to strictly be your place of residence with you and your family, if applicable. If you choose to sell your Habitat home before you pay off your first mortgage, Habitat has what is called the right of first refusal. So, as I said, before you pay off your first mortgage, if you choose to sell your Habitat home, say, for example, you have an exciting job opportunity in California and your family chooses to move, you must notify Habitat that you intend to sell your home, and Habitat has the ability to purchase the home back from you to then sell to another affordable or another income eligible buyer. So if you choose to sell your home before you pay off your first mortgage, you can't automatically sell it on the market. You have to first offer it back to Habitat to purchase. There are resale restrictions on the homes, and this does apply to the Norfolk Street homes. And so what we mean by resale restrictions is it's also referred to as a deed restriction, and the purpose of it is to keep the homes affordable for low to moderate income households in the future. So it's to make sure that home stays affordable to all future home buyers. We'll get into the details of that in the next slide or two. Something important to also know is that all of the homes that we have in the pipeline and that we will be opening applications up for over the next few years are all condominium associations. We very rarely build single family homes, and we don't have any plans to build single family homes in the next few years. We'll get into the details of what a condominium association means and what that responsibility is as a homeowner in a condo association. But two things to be aware of is that there are condo fees that come along with a condo association, as well as all the homeowners have to work together to make decisions on common areas. So to get into the deed restriction a little more, the specific document that refers to a deed restriction is called the Deed Rider Covenant for Affordable Housing. I want to point out this is something that the city of Boston does. It's not a Habitat document. It's not a Habitat rule. It's the city of Boston. And we're trying to maintain affordability and perpetuity with Boston housing stock. So what does this mean for someone who owns a deed restricted home? Very similar to Habitat's rule, it must be the homeowner's primary place of residence. You cannot rent out the home. There is a maximum resale price if a homeowner is to sell their home that is deed restricted, meaning you cannot sell the home at the market value. Instead, the city of Boston has a specific calculation they do to determine what the maximum resale price is of a deed restricted home if a homeowner chooses to sell it. And the purpose of the maximum resale price is to make sure that the home can then be sold and be affordable to a low to moderate income buyer. Like I said, these restrictions are in place to maintain long-term affordability of the homes in Boston. So a condominium association, as I mentioned, these homes and none of the homes in the pipeline for us are single family homes. They're all multiple unit homes. When talking about Norfolk Street specifically, there are 7 homes that will then form a condo association. And so as a homeowner in a condo association, your household is responsible for everything within the 4 walls of your home. So you can do whatever you want to your home within the 4 walls. You don't have to work with the other homeowners in the condo association. If you want to, say, paint your living room gray. But when it comes to all the common areas, so this is kind of the landscaping, and if there are any common porches, things like that, all homeowners share ownership of those common areas. And so they must work together to make decisions regarding those common areas and how to maintain them, keep them safe, address any repairs that may need to happen. So in order to fund the maintenance and repairs of the common areas and to also pay common area bills, there are the monthly condo fees. So it's a payment that each homeowner makes in the condo association each month. It goes into the condo association bank account, and from there, the condo association pays things like property insurance, if there's a common water bill, if they choose to hire landscaping services, any repairs and maintenance of the common areas. This is the point of the condo fees. It's where the money comes from for those things. Our intent is that the condo association will be managed by a professional property management company that will work directly with the homeowners to do things like facilitate meetings and help pay bills and whatnot. But at the end of the day, it's up to the 7 homeowners in the condo association to work together to make every decision regarding the common areas. It kind of goes back to that aspect of community as a homeowner too, because you're working together with the other homeowners, you get to know each other and you really build that community within your condo association.
We want to thank you for taking time to come to our info session today. And you can definitely stay updated with Habitat at our website, habitatboston.org/apply, to get the latest news on our homeownership opportunities, the application process, when the application becomes available. We do have an interest form on our website using that link. If you haven't already filled it out, please do. That way you can be contacted as soon as the homeownership opportunities becomes available. We're also on social media on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. So if you, again, just want to stay updated with how things are going and when the application is going to open, you can follow us on social media. And Habitat is an equal opportunity housing provider. So we are not going to discriminate based on any protected class. We're going to make sure that everyone has the opportunity that they deserve to achieve this wonderful goal of becoming a homeowner.